So we're talking about spaciousness, and the reason it came up is because it's springtime, and we're both feeling a sense of possibility and being able to almost like be new versions of ourselves because there's a space that's opening up. Um, I was saying that there's an ease with springtime. There's more ease because my body's not defended against the cold. The days are longer, a little bit already. There's more light. And I'm noticing that I just have a lot more space in my life. I wrote a blog post about it recently, um, called How I Get So Divinely Much Done. And I'm realizing that the systems that I have put in place to, you could say, routinize, but I say ritualize many things that I do regularly, that I do either daily or weekly, which I describe in that blog post actually, um, make it make my life so simple that I have more time, and I think of that as space. I think of that as spaciousness. And at the same time, I'm not rushing to fill that space. All last year, I started working on a memoir. I would write one chapter a week, a short chapter. There's a sense in which I've opened up a flow of creativity, and I'm willing to let that creativity flow through me into the space that I have now without determining what it is going to look like. And you were saying that you were feeling that same sense, a sense of renewal and a sense of spaciousness.
The other part of spaciousness, as I understand it, and I'm not sure I do understand it, um, one of the things I love about when we work together is we're often talking about things that are very hard to put into words, but that matter more than everything else. And I think with spaciousness, I know, like, I remember a day I was at the Art Institute in San Francisco,
Mm.
looking at a classic traditional Chinese landscape painting. And most of it was space, most of it was air and clouds. And my understanding was that to ancient Chinese thinkers, space was, or the void even, is
Mm.
what generates what is.
Mm.
And that out of nothing comes the most beautiful stuff. And that's a part of it as well. I don't know why it's so moving and comforting, but
Mm.
it's as if it's a reassurance that we are part of the workings of the universe. In some place, something is just fine. And
Ah.
you know, each, I mean, we're all seeing it right now. I mean, the daffodils have been coming up through the snow, through the cold nights, and now they're blooming. I mean, the flowers are out. Um, they've got a lot of nerve. You know, they didn't care. They persevered. So there's all this beauty in all of that. That's just, I feel the energy flow of it. It's really exhilarating.
Mm. And how is it showing up? You've been describing to me when we talk how it's showing up in your life. There's been a shift
Well,
recently.
yes, I think that for me, I had a really hard 5 years there. Some
Mm.
bad things happened, including being very sick. And it was my life as I knew it had disappeared. And out of that nothingness has come a whole bunch of new beauty. There's new growth appearing, and it just seems natural. And it's the thing that's clear to me is I'm not creating this. I'm noticing it and appreciating it. I'm cheering it on. But these deep feelings are coming from a very, very deep place. It's really reassuring to know that that's in us. I think it's in all of us. And what so part of what I always wonder about when I'm working with you is you're so pragmatic, but you're so spiritual at the same time. And I
Mm.
think there's a connection here between those things.
Mm. That's really nice. Right. I am pragmatic. Well, yeah, I've been intrigued to see your writing, to see your writing shift and your writing come out more, being out more. One thing I think you're saying is when your life, you sort of felt like you lost your life, is like you lost your identity.
Yes.
You lost your sense of who you were. That those 5 years were huge. I mean, they passed really quickly in some ways during this whole time that I've known you. But then when we feel the spaciousness, and you say that it's, I think what your understanding of what the Chinese thinkers are saying about the void is my understanding. That when we say we can feel that, and that's the generative force, the great sort of yin out of which everything is coming, it's also something that we can trust, you're saying, and something that we can then surrender to,
Yes.
which means we can surrender our identity. And identity is pretty plastic, it's pretty pliable, and it can get shaped and reshaped. And so then we can have a new identity and we can wear that identity kind of gently and and this is how I see like spring moving through us. And each seasonal energy is a wonderful thing to allow to move through us. I get very taken by each one. And so I kind of forget about the next one. And I'm always taken by surprise, like, oh, this is spring. This is what it feels like. There are flowers. You guys are having flowers before we're having flowers, but down on the ground at like a lower altitude than we are, there are flowers. So, oh, I'm coming out of winter and I feel like Punxsutawney Phil or something. I feel like that, like, oh, and I'm ready to let winter go. I almost feel guilty, but I was so excited when winter was coming, and I was really ready to just wrap up in a blanket, and that was good. And now I mean, I'm a recovering workaholic, speaking of being pragmatic and spiritual. And so I'm careful. I'm not quite putting the brakes on myself, but I'm like careful of what I take on because I do tend to take on too much. Um, and so this posture of holding, it's not really tension, but holding in dynamic balance, this greater energy and the spaciousness of, and letting that greater energy speak, letting it take up the space and letting it help move through us and help us see what's next is very exciting. It's sort of like kinetic energy, it's potential energy. It doesn't have to be acted on instantly, it can be
That's
sat
a
with.
perfect example of utter pragmatism and spirituality. That's a perfect example of it.
Oh my God, you're so smart.
And you don't have to, I mean, you don't have to think things up. You were talking about the things I'm writing now. Um, they're surprising me.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking I'm feeling stale. The things I'm writing are feeling kind of stale. I'm wondering if I'm running out of steam. And all of a sudden, these things are flowing out of me. I had no idea. What a beautiful thing that is to know that that's in us and that we don't have to force it out. A little bit of, back to the Chinese little wu wei here, not
Mm,
forcing, not forcing, not
right.
forcing. And oh my goodness. But how do we get ourselves in a setting where that's likely to happen?
Mhm. We
I
grow
think
older.
yeah, and I think the person I was no longer exists.
Mm,
The person I really am is still here.
mm,
I wonder who that guy is. I'm getting to like him. We've been through a lot together, he and I, and it's he's been pretty brave at times, and all of us have been brave at
mm,
times. It's and it just starts. I think it all comes from some deep forces that, and you can explain it physiologically or spiritually, and I think you're talk on the same thing.
mhm. I'm thinking about something you wrote about looking at yourself in the mirror. You were just telling me about that.
You know, you
Um,
know, that's a big deal to me. One of a Buddhist text I was reading was suggesting that you should look in yourself in the mirror and smile. I read an article once saying that people who were experiencing a great deal of pain at the Mayo Clinic were
mm,
often told when they passed by a mirror to look directly in the mirror and say, not guilty. Well, I loved it. So I do. I never hesitate to look in a mirror and smile now. Looking at this old guy, who is this old guy, man? That's not who I think I am. And I just smile and think,
Mm.
we got some secrets, buddy. We know a few things. It's lovely. It's really lovely.
You
That
said Joseph Campbell said something really interesting about it.
um, yes, Joseph Campbell said that to finally know ourselves as we really are is the honor of a lifetime. It's a triumph. And I think that's so true.
It is so true. We discover that as we age. And I think looking in the mirror and being able to smile at yourself, and there are times I'm able to do it spontaneously, I just notice it. It feels like the same thing. Like I'm saying, yes, I really have done this and I'm really here and it is an honor. So
Look
you,
into your eyes in the mirror and see the glitter in those old eyes and go, yeah, those eyes have seen a few things.
a
Isn't that
few
wonderful?
things, a few things. Yeah. Wow. I'm thinking about young people watching this. I mean, I think old people, older people, however you want to say it, watching this will be like, yeah. And then, young people, we're so taught to envy young people, but I feel like that's a crime
I do
now.
too.
Now, I mean, young people have it hard. I wouldn't want to be young again for anything. I mean, I believe in reincarnation, so I'll probably be young again some other time, but I'm so relieved to be old or older right now, to be the age I am, whatever age that is.
Well, I just wrote about that. I just wrote about how when we are very, very young, we have to learn how to be human beings on our own. I mean, animals are born ready to go. We're not. And
Mm,
we have to learn that. And I look back at my life and think, I don't remember that, but it must have been quite an adventure learning to be a real person. And then don't even get much start. We all, adolescence is famous. It's hard stuff. Who
oh,
am I? Why don't people like me? Um, I'm falling in love with someone. They don't care who I am. What does this mean? I mean, people are making fun of me because I'm ungainly. I mean, yeah, it's hard
mm,
stuff. And then you go into the workforce and what am I going to do to earn a living? And you notice that some people don't approve of you as much as they should. And, all sorts of stuff like that. Well, yeah, growing up is not a walk in the park.
yeah. What is it? Getting old is not for sissies, but neither
Yeah.
is getting older, neither is growing up.
Yeah.